back to our next episode of Zoo Americus. Today's episode is going to be about the armadillo. So we're building a zoo for South and North America animals, and actually the armadillo is more a Middle American animal. It's crossing the borders from South to Middle America, so I thought it would be a nice animal to place in this zoo, also in a place where this crossing will happen as well in the zoo. So we're gonna build here for the armadillo, and maybe you will see in the background that I also have been building a beautiful restaurant in the background. But when I was building this part of the zoo, as before I told before, we have some cash flow problems. So I wanted to make an extra habitat to make it more interesting for people, and so I could raise the cost of the zoo a little bit. And this way we could get a little bit more income. So we're building an habitat for the armadillo, and the 9-banded armadillo is actually the species name. We have many types of armadillo, but not in the game, but in real life. And in this case, we have the 9-banded armadillo. It's quite a small animal. But I want to make sure, because it's quite used to warmer climates as well, that I had some inside viewing area as well as an outside viewing area for this armadillo. So I'm making a small inside area, viewing area, and I was thinking of making this like a little bit more of a desert-like feel. And the outside area a little bit more lush and green. So what you can see is when I'm doing the inside area as well, is that I'm placing a lot of extra information signs and some information interviews, because I was making it a little bit deeper, so the space will feel a little bit more roomy, and that gave us some space to make these extra info screens there as well. So, doing some research for this armadillo, I found out that it's quite a common species, and I was also very interested because you see these beautiful pictures of rolled up armadillos, but that's actually not the 9-banded. The only armadillo species that can roll up and in itself is the 3-banded armadillo, and that's actually a species that only comes in South America as far as I have seen. And the 9-banded armadillo is not able to roll itself up. Something very interesting as well I saw about the armadillos, and the difference with the 3-banded armadillo, is that the 9-banded also has a very long tail compared to the 3-banded armadillo. They are still quite like small species, so I saw that I didn't need so much room for them, and making a habitat very big for a small animal isn't very functional as well, because the guests probably won't have such a great view on the animals. So I was thinking about making it a little bit smaller on the outside as well, so the animals wouldn't go as far back, and the inside a little bit more bigger, because like I said, I was thinking about making it a more desert-like feel, so I wanted to place some rocks there and just make sure that I can have enough room to place stuff inside. And that also I could move the rocks a little bit more to the front, so the armadillos won't go too far back. Still, I knew they were quite a small animal, but when I was making this build, I hadn't thought about how small they really were. It's always a surprise when you get the animals eventually in the park sometimes, because when you're building, or at least when I'm building, it's always a little bit of a shock when you see the animals sometimes. They're sometimes so much bigger, or sometimes very much smaller than you think the animal would be. Also, to make the building a little bit more interesting, you see that I'm making a ledge here, so that the main building would be a little bit higher than the building where the armadillos would be resting. Also, I'm not making any backstage. Armadillos are quite gentle creatures, there was no need for me to, I think zookeepers can handle them quite easily, so there was no need for me to make a backstage area where they could be separated. Probably in a zoo we could make a backstage area separate from them, so like a quarantine area you would have where the armadillos would be placed, or they would be kept inside the keeper's hut to do things like weighing or stuff like that, checking the infants of the armadillo on health and stuff like that. So and the keeper hut actually is quite close to this building, because maybe you remember from the previous episodes that we had a keeper hut placed quite close also for the caimans. So that's a road actually connects as well on the backside of this area, so the keeper hut is quite close, so that would be a perfect place where they would take the armadillos if they wanted to do anything with the animals. Filling up the roof and making everything look nice, I'm using the plaster pieces here. I'm actually just leaving this nice sand color. I didn't change anything in this color because I thought this sand color was quite alright, and it was giving me this like a little bit of this desert feel as well, so I was happy with just keeping this the regular color. And because I was making this like a little bit like bended shape, I didn't make it too easy, of course, for myself, but of course when you have this bended shape as well, you have this nice open view of the windows from the inside, so I really wanted to have this little bit bend in there so you could have a nice spacious view of the inside area for the armadillo later. Alright, just checking how high the fences needed to be for the armadillo, and because at this time I didn't have them yet, so I thought, that's great. And I had some pre-made fence I made before with these little poles, and first I thought that would be a great option, but later in the game I think I forgot to film this. I changed it up because it didn't fit in with the rest of the theming of the building. I changed it up to a different kind of fencing with some glass pieces, which also made it easier when the armadillos were quite close to the glass to still see them without having to bend all over the fence, which was of course a lot nicer than people trying to bend over and looking at the animals. So making everything look nice, like I said, I wanted to have some sand in there, so I'm making the sand, and there is my first armadillo, and you can see this nice long tail of this armadillo, which is I think a little, it somehow is a little bit mouse-like. They're quite funny creatures actually. There's just this very hard shell, which is sort of actually not a shell, but it's more like a skin, but very hard, tough skin. And then the long ratty tail they have on the backside. Very interesting animals. They live in burrows, so I gave them a little burrow, and of course I wanted to give them some water, and I was trying to place this water tap in the corner, and somehow it didn't want to go there, but I got it eventually there on the side, so I was happy with that, so I could keep it there. And then after I put the building there and I was happy that they couldn't escape and they were in the right place, it was time for me to do some theming on the outside. So I saw some of these like desert-like buildings. They have these like wooden beams sticking out, so I thought that was very nice to have something like that. So I first started with making these wooden beams on the outside and just edging that all around. also read very interesting things about this nine-banded armadillo, that they actually always get quadruplets. So they always got 4 babies. And every time they have 4 babies, they are 4 identical copies. So every baby is a copy of the other one. So there are completely identical twins, and which is very interesting. So that means that in normal life, the armadillo only gets boys or a full nest of girls. When I was playing the game, my armadillos actually bred quite quickly, so I got quadruplets as well. But unfortunately, the game did change up their stats, so they were not identical, which I thought, that's a shame. I just hoped that was like this really nice small detail that Frontier could have done, and making them quadruplets, identical quadruplets as well. It would be fun, and it would be completely in tune with nature. I would have liked that a lot. But unfortunately the game didn't make it, which is easier if you want to breed with them, because you can choose which animal you think is the right animal to keep. But well, yeah, we can't have it all. Alright, making a little gate here, and thinking about the fact that I have been making that feeding enrichment on the outside, knowing that the keeper needed to go outside, so I needed a large enough door for the keeper to go. And I was thinking first of making this arch like that, but you will probably see that in later I was deleting that again, because I figured out that I didn't want that arch with the colors like that, because when I started on the inside, I started with a color scheme in reds and yellows, and this arch was just not it was really just too Indian for my liking. So I'm making it a nice atmosphere, and I was thinking of making a nice scheme in these tiles, and choosing this really nice dark red, some browns, and the yellows, just complementing each other. And I thought it was giving a nice feel and color scheme, so I was happy with those. And I'm making a band around the building, and again, I didn't make it easy on me, because the walls are all a tiny bit crooked here and there, so I was and they were not fitting completely right, because I did a lot of small work as well, so they didn't fit 100% all the way through in the corners. So in a later moment I needed to fix that as well. At that time I forgot to record it, and so later on you will see the cut where we go to the part that I forgot to record, and I fixed it with placing beams there. So I made some beams, and those beams were also just covering up those holes where the tiles were not going all the way through the edge of the building. So making those tiles here, and when I was happy with everything and everything was in place, I just copied over the tiles to the top as well, so it was nice fixed in place. So here we go to the cut, and we have the part where you can see that I did already a lot of changes. I put a lot of plants outside, and you can also see that here the fence is changed, and I used the same stones I used on the top of the building. with the glass. And here you can also see the inside. I just decorated it with the desert rocks and some of the desert plants, and just not too much so the view wouldn't be ruined for the people. And here you can also see the baby armadillos. Look how tiny they are. They're like a mouse, so small, so incredibly small. And the outside, like I said, I was making a little bit more of a lush feel, a little bit more plants, and just hiding away this water fountain with some rocks, so it really would blend in well. So now we have the information stands, and I just want to give them a nicer look as well, because I didn't feel that they were fitting in well and they were not like making a statement or something in the area. So I want to really make sure that they were a little bit more prominent and in theme with the building. So I was just using the plaster pieces and just combining them in a way that I was making a little bit more of a stand and then giving it a nice feel. So it would have it would blend in well with the rest. And when I was happy with every piece, I just copied it further to the back, so it was covering the full information stands, and then I could just replace it and put it on the inside, and that way it really blended in well. And of course, with the sound effects information stand, I wanted to also change that up a little bit, do the same, but this time a little bit easier, because of course this is like a tiny little stand, so it didn't need a lot of just making the plaster pieces on the bottom as well, so it would blend in well. That was actually all it needed, and then I could place it and just put it on the right place and put it inside, and it was done. Also, you can see here that I also copied over the roof to the bottom, so that's and make the flooring out of it, because then again the blending was in with the dark red and the beams. It was all quite dark, so I wanted this very nice light flooring. So this plaster pieces on the floor was fine. It was just blending in well and making it nice and look whole. Of course, we have to put some information in there, and I opted for the outside to put the speaker there and just place a small TV screen there with the information, but it wouldn't count as information. So putting the speaker there would definitely give me enough of the information coverage, so the people would be happy. And then I'm going to decorate the info signs on the inside and just making sure it was fitting into the theme and making it look nice. So I just used the tiles just to cover the edges, make it in the same colors. And these tiny corner pieces were great, and just making those in the yellow color. And because the Armadillo sign is already in this same color scheme, this just worked out perfectly. It just really looked very, very well. And of course, I wanted to have the little info sign that was on this sign as well. And I was trying to grab that. It was quite difficult to get it, but eventually I got it. And just cover up that bottom there. So putting some extra information there and just making it in the right color. So it looked really nice. So then I was thinking that this wall is still a bit bare. I think I need more information about the armadillo in this area. So I was trying to build my own info sign next to it with just some text about the armadillo. And I'm using the planks here because it was flexi color, so I could theme it up as well. And then I was just checking out how this little sign was built up and see if I can use some of these components to fill up this info sign with some other information. And of course, I could have used some small TV screens to make some pictures about the armadillo and make sure that it even looked nicer. But in the end, I just opted for these blank squares, which are actually the dots of one of the fonts in the game, and they are just the dots or the commas, or I think the dots of a font, and they just work perfectly as well as looking at like a sort of picture sign or information sign. So if I ever have the time to get some footage from the internet about the armadillo, I could just use TV screens and upload those and make it look even better. But at the moment I was just happy with that it looked like some kind of information sign. And just making sure that there's different parts of information. Because if you go to a zoo, you have like a little part about habitat or a little part about their food interests or what they eat. Maybe a part about where they live or how they are threatened in the wild, for instance, because there are maybe people hunting on them. Which is also the case with the armadillo, because armadillos burrow in the ground, they dig. And I don't know if anybody of you have armadillos in their back gardens, but apparently there are a lot of people that are quite annoyed about the digging of the armadillos, and they just kill them. And I think that's so sad that the spur armadillos are being killed by people. But yeah, it happens all over the world. Where people and animals meet, things go wrong a lot. So like you see, I make some different pieces. I turn around some of those signs so that it looks nicer, and also changing up that sign to the other side where I show the inside of the burrow. Just copying that part over and just making sure it's two parts. And then after I finished this part and made sure it all looked like I wanted it, I thought I want to make a nice emblem, but there wasn't like a small picture of an armadillo that I could use on the sign. So eventually I just opted for the 3D statue of the armadillo, which eventually I think I still looked fun. And I wanted some kind of headline as well on the top of this sign. So I went back to the font that I got from the workshop. And this is a really, really tiny font, and that was perfect for my sign. So I was thinking about what would be a cool title about the armadillo, and I opted for shielded, because they have like this shell or shield to protect them in a way. So I thought shielded would be a nice head title for this sign. Copying it over, making sure it doesn't stick to the wall and sticks out the other end, and it wasn't, so hey, hooray for me. And I think that sign was done. I was happy with it, changed some small color, and then I was happy just putting on those info signs so people could see about all the stuff, and just checking if that sound monitor was going all on the same good sounds. Then we have, of course, this ugly, how you say it, path, and I was thinking I want to do something with this path because it didn't look well, and I wanted to make some rocks that were leading all the way to the side of the viewing area. And placing there those rocks, I saw they were quite gray, and these are actually the they're called in Dutch, we call them surface pieces, but I think in English they are called differently. But I'm thinking about the name, but I can't remember what the name was in English. And just using these pieces to fill up those gaps. But then I wasn't happy with the coloring, and it didn't look well, so I just tried out some different paths just to see how it looked and how it felt. And eventually I think I opted for the lightest version, actually, which discolorated more from the those small pieces I put there, but in the end I didn't mind. And then covering up this donation box. Of course, we need the donation box to get in money, And like I said, I always have a problem with money. So there needed to be a donation box. But still, I wanted to have it a little bit in theme as well. So I just used these Indian pieces or African pieces and just colored them in the same colors I have on the inside. Because the outside is so nice and gray. It really stands out quite interestingly. And it just filled it up and made it look a little bit more nicer. So first of all, covering up this part where the solar panel is and making sure everything is looking nice over there, and just making sure that the outside is looking as well. So around the fountain, I also was thinking about, okay, how can I fill up this area that it looks well? So I first tried it with the square pieces, but eventually I figured out that this square with the stonework, it just didn't look nice. I couldn't get it to work in a way. I had to adjust the path anyway, and then I thought, all right, the path is now running under the fountain anyway, so I might as well just delete the squares as well. So I third thought, I can use it, and later I just deleted it and just made it differently as well. You will see me also changing it up, because now it's square, but later on I will make it into a circular form, because it just because this square is just leading up right to the wall, and it just didn't look the best. So I didn't feel like it was right, and that square wasn't doing anything for this outside area. So I just wanted to fill it up with the round shapes. It just looked a lot better on this place, and still you have the centerpiece of the fountain. And here you can see me that I'm using this the centerpiece with the rock work over the stones, but later on I would use the plaster piece as well, because of course again the plaster pieces would be fitting more in theme with the building, and it would look a lot more cohesive. Also, you see a lot of people going through the wall, so I was trying to stop that with some of the pieces that needed to be stopped, and also people running through the fountain, which was for me so annoying to see people going through these items. So I was really trying to get people not to walk through the fountain. And just copying over some of the plants from the other parts. So just making my life go easy, because just placing all those plants individually, it takes so much time. So just copying those plants over and then just filling up the gaps with some of the smaller plants was fine for me. It was great, and I could just do it like that. And here you can see I'm replacing it with the plaster piece. And you can immediately see how much more cohesive that square now looks. So I was really happy with that. And then I wanted to fill up that part with the green as well, because I was thinking, okay, can I make it with the stones? But later I just deleted the stones again. I just made some small pieces with the stones and just did the rest with the plants. And it just turned out great, I think. It just made it a full look. Then I wanted to cover up the very, very ugly part of the keeper paths, because these keeper paths are just horrendous. They look so incredibly awful. I understand that the frontier is making a difference in the path, because you want to really clearly see that it's a keeper path, but it just looks so horrible. So I just needed to cover that up. So I just used the concrete pieces and just made a little bit of the art so it looks well. And of course, you don't want people to run into the keeper path, because now it looks definitely like a normal path. So I wanted to make sure that people wouldn't know that they can't go in there. So I made a really easy access rope, very simple, with the stop sign and some poles. And I don't think you need more. That looks great, and it looks nice, and just making sure that on both sides you have a little bit of similar shrubs, so it was really nice and cohesive. And I could just copy that over to the other side and just placing it there as well, so that keeper path was also blocked. Then I wanted to just finish off this square, and I thought I need some kind of statue. So I was looking through the statue list about all the animals, and I was thinking, I want some animals that are in this area. So I found the capybara and of course the armadillo. And like you can see, I'm also placing a wolf because later on there will be a wolf. And I was thinking about placing the sea lion there as well, but because they will come in one of the later episodes, we will do some sea lions. But it was just too big and too full. And I really wanted the wolf to stand out a little bit alone because, of course, that's a meat eater. And the other animals standing around it. So I opted for a little bit of a smaller animal, the raccoon. It was the raccoon. And just like framing them out with these nice big trees and some of the shrubs. And here you can see me finishing off the outside of the building with this like nice lining, rockwork lining on the side. It just gives it a more polished look in the end. And I was happy that I eventually thought about it of placing that there because it really looks a lot better with that little bit of extra lining on the building. So that just gave that little finesse. And then for the last part of this build, I was making a sign for the reptile house because of course we have our Reptopia sign in front of the big entrance on the other side. But if people were coming from this side, you want to know that they're going inside the reptile house as well. And I didn't want to make anything on the building. So I thought I'm making a nice sign that I could put next to the entrance there. So I'm making a sign for Reptopia. And keeping in line with the building, I was using the, not the plaster pieces, but I don't know what the English word for it, calcium pieces? Limestone? I think it's limestone. And I could recolor it in the nice white color we're using for the building as well. And just giving it just an edge on the top and the bottom, and using the Australia signs to put in the background. So this is the final part of the building. Everything you can see in the zoo, you can see our beautiful armadillo habitat from the top. And here you can see our little inside view of the armadillo habitat. It looks great. I really hope you enjoyed this episode. I really enjoyed building it, and I hope to see you next time. Bye-bye.